Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Week 5 Big Fish Football Week in Review. Let's get right to it. First game of the week, Tampa, Chicago. I was sure Tampa was going to absolutely roll over the Chicago Bears. And it looked that way in the first half, except for the last 2 or 3 minutes when Nick Foles got ahead, and they pretty much stayed ahead. As Nick Foles proved to me that, it might not always be pretty, but he can get the job done. Tom Brady didn't know it was fourth down at the end of the game, and I don't know if it cost him, but I tell you what, Chicago Bear defense can carry them. I think the Bears will make the playoffs. They won't win their division. I think the Packers will, but the Bears, they'll make the playoffs. As for Tampa, now they're tied with the Panthers and the Saints. I think they'll make the playoffs, but we'll have to see. If they don't make the playoffs, I can really see it being Tom Brady's last year. Next game, Raiders-Chiefs. What a game. The Raiders finally showed up and showed what they're capable of. And all that speculation and all that talk, I bet you John Gruden is glad right now that he didn't draft anybody or bring another free agent in, because Derek Carr proved that he's worth it to John Gruden. Incredible game. Their defense played great. Yeah, they gave up 32 points, but they got key turnovers when they needed it the most, and they made Pat Mahomes, instead of above average, or instead of making him look like the best quarterback ever, they only made him look above average. So I would say the Raiders are now contenders in that division. So hopefully when they play Kansas City again in Las Vegas, it'll be the same story for the Raiders. But good job to the Raiders, pulling the big upset, 40-32. Next game, the lowly New York Jets 10, the Arizona Cardinals 30. I think everybody that's ever watched a football game knows that was going to happen. And Adam Gase still has a job. Bill O'Brien doesn't have his job. He's won 4 divisions. Dan Quinn doesn't have his job anymore. He went to the Super Bowl, won an NFC championship, and now there's Adam Gase, still the head coach of the Jets. And on top of that, Le'Veon Bell's released because Adam Gase didn't like him, and they weren't using him. So the Jets, they are officially tanking for Trevor. I won't be shocked if Sam Darnold gets traded. I don't know where he would go right now. Maybe San Francisco would be the perfect place for him. But I could see a situation where Joe Douglas is going to totally rebuild, and they're just letting Adam Gase play out the string and get rid of him and bring the coach that he wants it to bring in. And it'll be all on him. But if you're a Jets fan, you got to trust Joe Douglas. But the final score of that game, Cardinals 30, Jets 10. Talk about the Cardinals. Cardinals are 3-2 now. They're a contender to go 7-9, 8-8, 9-7. Cliff Kingsbury is a tool, and they're not going to get that far, because when it's all said and done, they have a lot of talent around them. Now Chandler Jones is out for the season, so that's a hit on their defense. But they're winning despite the coaching. Eagles-Steelers, incredible game. My executive producer Ryan and I watched that entire game. It was a fantastic game, and a couple of times I thought the Eagles were going to get ahead, but they're playing desperation, trying to keep ahead in the NFC least. So they gave it everything they had. But Chase Claypool scored 3 receiving touchdowns and 1 rushing touchdown, and he's AFC Player of the Week. Ben was spot on with most of his throws, led the team up and down the field. The defensive backfield, I don't know if it's pressure, they need to get more pressure, or the defensive backfield, they need to play more man, because there were just too many average receivers wide open. And they have Cleveland next week, so they really need to shore that up. But Steelers 38, Eagles 29. Great game, though. Fun to watch. And the Steelers pulled it out, and they're still undefeated. First undefeated start since 1979. And us Steeler fans know the last time they went 4-0 in 1979, they went on to win the Super Bowl. Next game, Dolphins 43, 49ers 17. One of the shocks of the week. Not the biggest shock, but one of the shocks of the week. Dolphins played a perfect game. They played an absolute perfect game. Ryan Fitzpatrick played way above his head. He played fantastic, and it's sad that maybe at this age he's starting to get it. And you're not hearing, here we are, it's Wednesday, and you're not hearing any Tua talk anymore because he played that well. Their defense played fantastic, but that was because Jimmy Garoppolo should not have played. He was playing on a bad ankle, and I'm starting to think the Jimmy Garoppolo experiment could possibly be over after this season when they can get out of that contract with a minimal cap hit. But, 49ers are 2-2, but with the Seahawks rolling like a Sherman tank, they got to get it together. I know they have too many defensive injuries, but this year, it could be one of those years they don't make the playoffs and get a nice high draft pick. But they're a good team. They're just having a bad year. Final score of that game, Dolphins 43, 49ers 17. It just goes to show the Dolphin coaching staff and the GM, they really have got it going, and the Dolphins are showing improvement after improvement every week. Chargers Saints, another amazing game. This one went down to the wire, and Justin Herbert, I keep saying every week, he's the real deal, and he showed it. He went toe-to-toe, and for a long time actually played better than one of the best quarterbacks of all time, Drew Brees. But when it was all said and done, the Saints and Drew Brees did just enough to get the field goal to win the game in overtime. But it was a fun game to watch, and the Saints, you got to give them, they're resilient. They were absolutely resilient in this game. They were down 17 points, came back and won it. But no crowd in the Superdome is definitely affecting the Saints. And the ownership is desperate for a crowd, so what they're going to do is the mayor of New Orleans will not let them have fans in the building. Then it looks like they're going to play at LSU Stadium, and they could probably really pack that place. So, final score, Saints 30, Chargers 27. Great game. Justin Herbert, real deal. You just can't wait for him to get a win. I mean, he's a good quarterback, and he's going to be good for years. Panthers Falcons. This is really a game that I thought the Falcons would win. I really thought. They say, oh, we love Dan Quinn, we play hard for him. And that might be true, but I think it was just, when it was all said and done, it was just done. And after the game, Arthur Blank not only fired Dan Quinn, he fired GM Thomas Dimitroff, which tells me they're thinking they're in a rebuild, and the new GM will come in, and he may clean house. I could definitely see Matt Ryan playing somewhere else on a team that thinks they're only a quarterback away from a Super Bowl. I still think he's a great quarterback. He's in his 30s, but I think that Atlanta could get a really high pick or a player for him, a young great player. I think maybe after the season, Matt Ryan's time is done. I've heard nothing on who the coach is going to be, but I don't know how Arthur Blank's going to do it. But I wish him luck. 23-16 was the final score of that game. And the Carolina Panthers are 3-2 now. They get better every week. Teddy Bridgewater plays great. Matt Rule, just like in Baylor, and just, in the last place he coached, every week he gets a little better. His teams get a little better. So it just goes to show that Carolina made the right hire. Matt Rule is a good coach. Final score, 23-16, Carolina. Next game, Rams-Washington. Not competitive game. Rams just simply rolled over Washington like they were supposed to. They had superior defense, superior offense, and they showed it. The only thing that You hate to see a helmet-to-helmet shot between Jalen Ramsey and Kyle Allen that hurt Kyle Allen's shoulder, knocked him out of the game. But the only thing exciting with that whole game was Alex Smith made his return after that horrible, horrible broken leg that he had 2 years ago. And he didn't play great, but just the fact that he played is just fantastic. And it just goes to show medicine in 2020 and just resilience of a person that I think is a good person. Kudos to Alex Smith. Hopefully he gets a chance and hopefully he plays great. Love to see him play great. Final score of that game, Rams 30, Washington 10. I don't know if the future quarterback is on the Washington football team. So, good luck to Ron Rivera. I know he's fighting cancer, but I think he has a long road ahead. Bengals, Ravens. The Bengals, most fun team to watch, not this week. The Ravens came in and they just took care of business. They smothered Burrow, forced him into turnovers, and Lamar Jackson just rolled over the Cincinnati defense. Cincinnati's 1-3-1, Ravens are 4-1, and Bengals just showed they still have a long way to go. But I think, they barely lost to Cleveland, but Cleveland gets better every week, and I think they'll lose to Steelers. I wouldn't be surprised if they lose every divisional game. Final score of that game, Ravens 27, Bengals 3. Jaguars, Texans. Romeo Crennel, the interim coach, comes right out and he gets a win. And this is what I'm talking about. Bill O'Brien had worn out his welcome with the players. There was a heated exchange between him and J.J. Watt. They lost the game and he was gone. You cannot be the GM and the head coach in the NFL anymore. Maybe Bill Belichick because he's a totally unemotional person, but he can't be the coach and GM. I know Romeo Crennel is 72 and he's not going to be the coach going forward. I don't know much about the McNair family. I don't know what kind of coach they would bring in. They seem to bring in, Bill McNair seemed to bring in offensive-minded coaches like Gary Kubiak and Bill O'Brien. So we'll have to see who they're going to bring in this time. Final score of that game, Texans 30, Jaguars 14. And the Jaguars, this is Doug Marone's last year in Jacksonville. They might have to be in a rebuild. And there's always at least one or two teams in this division that are just absolutely horrible. But, Gardner Minshew put up nice numbers, but, no defense. They got rid of all their defensive players. But Texans, they finally get a win, and I think it's going to be one of many. I think they're going to play loose now because the threat of Bill O'Brien is gone. So I look for Texans to win more games. I don't think they'll make the playoffs. I think it's too late for that. But I could see them finishing 7-9, 8-8. 8-8 would be a successful season after this start. So, final score, Texans 30, Jaguars 14. Kudos to the Texans for getting off the snide. Next game, here we go. Disappointment of the weekend. Colts 23, Cleveland Browns 32. Hey, I don't like the Browns. I've never liked them. Because I still remember stuff like them beating the Steelers 51-0 in 1989. But you know what? They're a good team, and you got to take your hat off to them. I think Steelers will beat them this coming Sunday, but I could be wrong. The Colts, Phillip Rivers to pick six, they couldn't run the ball. Myles Garrett was just destroying the pocket, everything like that, and forced Phillip Rivers to make terrible mistakes. But the defense, everybody said all week, this is the best defense in the NFL. They didn't play like it. They sure didn't play like it. And Colts have some work to do. They're 3-2. I realize they're probably going to win this division pretty easy. Well, no, maybe not, because of the Titans. I think maybe the Titans are going to win this division pretty easy. But the Colts, come on, you have this great defense, show up. Baker Mayfield, he's not that good. At least he's not running his mouth, but he is making a million commercials. I think every other commercial during a football game or a NFL-related show has Baker Mayfield's face on it. And they're usually pretty just blah. But Cleveland, they're just blah. So, final score of that game, the Cleveland Browns, 32. Indianapolis Colts, 23. Colts didn't show up, and especially their defense didn't show up. Disappointment of the weekend. Next game. And this was pretty... Yeah, the Cowboys won 37-34 over the New York Giants. They were supposed to. Andy Dalton had to come in and win the game, and by now, you've seen my other videos of Dak's broken ankle. Reminded me of, like I said before, reminded me of Jason Kendall back at Three River Stadium. And the way that ankle broke, and the way I remember Jason Kendall's, they're going to have to start looking into this turf. I thought the turf thing was corrected and everything like that, but man, that injury was ugly. And you feel bad for Dak, and the surgery was successful. So, be back next year. Hopefully the Cowboys don't try to screw him on a contract. Hopefully, if they can't come to a deal, he'll get franchised again, because he was having an MVP-like season. And the Giants, too many injuries, too many young guys, new coach, rebuild, 0-5. Not much more you can say about the Giants. They're going to be 0 for a while. Final score of that game, Cowboys 37, Giants 34. Next game, Seahawks 27, Vikings 26. I would have went for it just like Mike Zimmer did. I thought it was a good call. I just didn't think they had the right back in there. They should have almost did a quarterback sneak with Kirk Cousins. They should have had maybe a bigger back than they did. I know Dalvin Cook was out with the hamstring or groin injury, but they should have just tried something else. I got straight up the middle because it was 4th and short. They could have. I think Dalvin Cook would have easily made that, and the game would have been absolutely over. But the Seahawks, maybe they're not, in my opinion, maybe not the best team in football anymore. But Russell Wilson right now, to me, is the best quarterback. And it's not even close. The guy is just a winner. He doesn't have to put up ridiculous stats. And, but he just does enough to win the game. And when it's all said and done, nobody's going to remember how many touchdown passes a quarterback threw a game. It's going to look at wins and losses. And the Seahawks, 5-0. Big stop on defense, and their defense gets better every week. 27-26. The Vikings should have won that game, but I'm not bothered at all that Mike Zimmer made that call, because the Seahawks offense was starting to roll. And let's face it, they get that 4th and 1, they convert it into a first down, game's over. Vikings win. So, Seahawks 27, Vikings 26. Don't give Zim a hard time for going for it on 4th down, because I think a lot of coaches would. And he's a great coach, and his extension proves it. Next game. Broncos-Patriots we're supposed to talk about now. But that game, COVID, and they just postponed it until next week. The COVID postponements are going to happen, and it's probably going to extend the season. Maybe even the Super Bowl will be played later in February. Hopefully not the same weekend as the Daytona 500, but it's going to be played later on in the season. So hopefully the COVID cases go down, but COVID cases, unfortunately, are going up everywhere. I don't know how much it has to do with the election, but we don't talk politics on here. So hopefully they get to play next weekend. Cam's back at practice, and it looks like they will. Last game of the weekend. Titans 42, Bills 16. Game was good for a half. And then the Titans, who really haven't practiced in 2 weeks because of all their COVID outbreaks, over 18 of them, they proved that you don't necessarily need practice all the time. I mean, they absolutely rolled the Bills in the second half. I mean, rolled them. They didn't run good at first, so they used play action. Got to give credit. The Bills stopped the run, But Ryan Tannehill played better. Josh Allen made some mistakes, a couple of turnovers, but it was just great defense by the it was just great defense by the Tennessee Titans. Bills are 4-1 now. Titans are 4-0. Bills will be back. I think the Bills will win their division. So, that's all the games. So we're going to talk about Le'Veon Bell getting cut. I'd love to see him back with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't think it's going to happen. I think there's too much water on the bridge. Both sides said some stuff about each other on the way out the door. So, if you give me a like and subscribe, I'd love to hear what you have to say about it. I'd love to give me an opinion on whether you'd like to see Le'Veon Bell a Steeler, or where do you think Le'Veon Bell is going to go. Cam Newton's back to practice. That's good for the Patriots. I think Cam Newton's a dynamic player. So, if you give me a like and a subscribe to Big Fish Football, I'd really appreciate it. I'm going to introduce you to my executive producer, Ryan Fisher, and he's going to say something about his channel.
My channel is about Lego building, and I do reviews about Legos. It's called Lego Lenny, with a picture of a little tiny Lego figure with a cat behind it.
Thanks, Ryan. And that's going to be all for our show today. But tune in Saturday night when I'll have a video out for the Big Fish Football Week 6 preview. So, enjoy the weekend, enjoy the NFL, and just keep your fingers crossed we don't have any COVID cases. And want everybody to have a nice night and have a great week. Thank you.